The earth is our only home, and we must protect and nurture it by adopting a green mentality to ensure the planet's sustainability and longevity. This can be done through the use of clean and renewable energy, which has little to no negative effects on the environment. Welcome to Hude Hour, the flagship program of Hude Network, where we analyze and discuss contemporary issues in the humanitarian and development space. I am your host, Amadine Ogbewe.
And I am Joan Eze. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Sources of renewable energy are not just alternatives to traditional fuels, they are a lifeline to a sustainable future. Renewable energy harnesses the power of nature in ways that are both efficient and environmentally friendly.
Today on Hude Hour, we'll break down why transitioning to these sustainable sources is not just an option, but a necessity for our planet and future generations. We'll also bring you stories around the world about the advocacy and progress made so far in the global push for clean energy. Here's a sneak peek at our headlines. Indonesia boosts solar energy amid growing renewable focus. Another news, Romania launches first renewable energy auction. Electricity from clean sources reaches 30% of global total. And we have Nigeria, China sign MOU to establish first renewable energy academy. Now we'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll delve further into the intricacies of the renewable energy agenda and the progress so far. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Now, according to the United Nations Environment Programme, about 1 billion people currently live without electricity, which significantly limits their development opportunities. More than 3 billion people rely on wood, charcoal, animal and crop waste, or other solid fuels to cook their food and heat their homes. Each year, close to 4 million people die prematurely from illnesses attributable to household air pollution from inefficient cooking practices. These numbers show clearly that limited access to energy supply hampers both human progress and economic growth. The environment offers a range of renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, and biofuels. Since 1990, carbon dioxide emissions have increased by over 46%, and it's been discovered that energy is the leading driver of climate change, responsible for approximately 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Renewable energy remains the pathway to recovery.
The heavy reliance on fossil fuels without efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions can lead to significant global climate change, enhancing energy efficiency and increasing the use of renewable sources help mitigate climate change and reduce disaster risk. Additionally, protecting ecosystems is crucial for sustaining and advancing hydropower and bioenergy resources. Here are some figures from the United Nations Environment Programme. Globally, improved energy efficiency could account for 40% of the emissions reduction we need to achieve, while China, Europe, and United States accounted for nearly 75% of the global investment in renewable power and fuels. 2017 saw significant investment in developing country markets.
Indeed, hydropower is currently the largest renewable source of electricity, supplying 16% of the world's electricity at competitive rates, and being a major component of the electricity mix in many countries, whether developed, emerging, or developing. Bioenergy is the largest renewable energy source overall, accounting for 10% of the world's primary energy supply. This shows that there's hope for the future as long as concerted efforts are maintained to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 7 of ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Now we're going to break, and when we return, we'll take a look at some examples from across the globe on the renewable energy agenda and progress made so far. Stay with us. Now to our news items. As one of the world's largest archipelagos with over 17,000 islands, Indonesia is harnessing its rich natural resources to address energy challenges and capitalize on a substantial solar potential. The nation's shift towards renewable energy has made solar power a central component of its strategy to diversify the energy mix, with Indonesia's equatorial location providing optimal conditions for solar generation. The government is prioritizing solar energy in its sustainability efforts. Recent years have seen a notable increase in the installation of solar power plants across the country. This move aligns with Indonesia's ambitious goal to have 23% of its energy mix come from renewable sources by 2025, just next year. The emphasis on solar energy is part of a broader commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainable energy practices. The growing focus on solar power not only aims to enhance Indonesia's energy security, but also to drive economic growth and environmental benefits, marking a significant step in the country's renewable energy transition. Well, Joan,
Mm,
that's Indonesia there, making moves,
yeah.
trying to fit in into this new pathway that the world should be on, but we have varying levels of success. But so far, what's really interesting there is that I think the core of renewable energy sometimes can just be harnessing what is close to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people know this, but some people have quote unquote more sun than the rest. And when I say more sun, I don't mean that the sunlight is more thereabouts, but when you're at the equator, close to the center of the earth, the rays are more directly on you, and I think it makes sense that Indonesia looked left and right and thought, well, this is something that we could get into. It's easy, it's right in front of us,
Yeah.
and I commend the what I call it the boldness to target 2025. That's next year.
Hmm. We're
Target
just few months
2025.
away.
Actually, yeah, just a few months away. Some person will say we're already in
Of
2025.
course.
So it's an ambitious target, and I really I'm trying to picture how it could be done. But I think when there's a will, as they say. So let's see how Indonesia pulls through with
Yeah,
that.
I totally agree with you on that. I will give it two words. One is it's not exploitation, it's exploration.
Okay.
When Indonesia has seen it as they are making use of what will I say God has blessed them with, it's a privilege for them being close to the equatorial region and them harnessing what they already have and channeling it into the renewable energy. It's going to pay off for them. So
Indeed.
kudos to them, and I look forward to them enjoying the transition moving forward. Okay, so the next news we have here, Romania's Ministry of Energy has initiated its first renewable energy auction using a contract for difference CFD scheme, marking a significant step in the country's renewable energy strategy. For this auction, the government has established a maximum strike price of €91 per megawatt for solar projects and €93 per megawatt for wind projects. Winning bids will receive 15-year CFD agreements, providing long-term price stability and support for renewable energy investments. This auction is part of Romania's broader renewable energy procurement plan, which aims to allocate a total of 5 gigawatts in wind and solar capacity. The Romanian government has recently updated its renewable energy targets, aiming for 36% of the nation's energy to come from renewables by 2030. Well, this plan includes 8.3 gigawatts of solar and 7.6 gigawatts of wind capacity, with a goal to phase out coal by 2032. As of the end of 2023, Romania had achieved 2.9 gigawatts of solar capacity. Well, it was still saying the same thing, Amadine. Romania has kicked up a very good start for them to move or transit from the non-renewable energy, that's the consumption of the coal, the fossil fuels that generates the greenhouse gas emissions and all that, and they are moving to the renewable energy. And well, I like the fact that they have a target, the whole 2032, 2030, trying to phase off and move over to the renewable energy. And of course, it has been recorded that in 2023, that was just last year, they've been able to move to cover up 2.9 gigawatts of solar capacity. I
Yeah.
think that's a very good one.
Yeah, indeed. And it's good news
Yeah.
for energy investments, clean energy investments.
Mhm.
So basically, this process, the CFD scheme, is basically telling these energy investors that no matter how much you invest, we're going to cover up whatever the world situation might be. And so
Yeah.
it goes to show that it's not just about countries having economic downturns or issues. Take, for instance, like we have in the country here, where you might invest a certain amount, and by the time it's time to reap your profits, perhaps things have gone awry, and now you're working at a loss. But what the scheme does is that it says, whatever the case may be, by this point in time, we are going to make up the extra or the excess. If the price falls below,
Yeah.
we'll quote unquote subsidize it.
Of course.
If it falls above, you can give us the extra. So
Yeah,
it's a
just to
win-win
cover up.
situation, and I'm really interested in all the energy investors in Romania. This is what we say when we say that investors need incentives. Definitely there are people running at this now saying there's not just a chance that we make the earth cleaner. We're going to make money from this. Money is a very big motivator.
Very important.
Yeah, sometimes more important than
Yeah.
saving the earth. So
Yeah.
it's a nice one from Romania. So with that, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll delve into the rest of our news items before we're joined by an expert and advocate on clean energy. Stay with us. Now, according to a new report published by EMBA, a London-based think tank in 2023 was a landmark year for renewable energy sources, which do not emit pollutants like carbon dioxide and methane. For the first time, renewable energy sources accounted for 30% of global electricity production, driven by rapid growth in solar and wind farms. The report highlights a 2% increase in global electricity consumption compared to the previous year, equivalent to the annual electricity use of Canada. This surge in demand includes rising use of heat pumps, electricity vehicles, and electrolyzers, all in which contribute to climate change solutions. Solar power emerged as the largest contributor to new clean energy installations last year. The amount of new solar capacity added was more than a double that of coal power, marking the 19th consecutive year that solar has been the fastest growing electricity generation source. A notable increase in solar installations occurred at the end of the year, with predictions indicating even greater growth in 2024. China led globally in renewable energy additions, contributing 51% of new solar power and 60% of new wind power. Alongside China, the European Union, the United States, and Brazil were responsible for 81% of the new solar generation in 2023. Despite these advancements, China also remained the largest global emitter of coal, accounting for 55% of coal generation worldwide. Coal, the most carbon intensive, fossil fuel, constituted 60% of China's electricity generation. Well, I guess this brings to mind the popular saying from the comic book character Spider-Man goes, with great power comes great responsibility. So, we have China, European Union, the United States leading in terms of renewable energy. Well,
Yeah.
they should, because they also contribute a, a large bunch of greenhouse gas emissions, because they're some of the most industrialized countries of the
Countries,
world.
yeah.
And so it's good to see them at least trying to remedy or make up for that, particularly China leading the charge, trying very hard, to get those numbers in. And if you recall some of the conversations we've had here, the United Nations is always saying things like, if we don't act now, even when some numbers might come up that don't look so good, the caveat, the condition is that things will get worse or things won't get better unless we act now. So I think we can see action in some level from the various stakeholders. But then the targets, the net zero emissions in the shortest time possible, perhaps 2030 and so on, they will still need to do more. But it's good to have that. A report can say that in 2023, this amount of growth was witnessed and, can build on that. And perhaps very soon or sometime in the next couple of months, we'll be getting a report on 2024 to see if that progress was maintained.
Okay, yes, I totally agree with you. Just like you said, China and the superpowers, they are the industrialized countries, and they tend to consume more of the fossil fuels and all that, and of course, it affects the climate change of the world, right? And whatever decision they take, literally affects the developing countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as they've began the whole leadership of switching to the renewable energy, I think with that other countries can also take up from there. All right. This brings us to our final news item. The Nigerian government has formalized a significant step towards advancing renewable energy in the country by signing two memoranda of understanding MOUs with the Chinese firm Mutual Commitment Company MCC Limited. The agreements mark the establishment of Nigeria's first renewable energy academy, a development hailed as pivotal for the nation's energy future. The MOUs were facilitated by the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, under the Federal Ministry of Power. The signing ceremony held in Beijing on the eve of the African China Cooperation Summit was attended by Nigeria's Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, and the Managing Director of REA, Mr. Abba Aliyu. Adelabu highlighted the common challenges faced by both Nigeria and China, particularly the pressures of energy access and job creation due to their large populations. Adelabu pointed out the government's priority to enhance energy access and stability, criticizing the long-standing reliance on centralized power systems. He noted that nearly 40% of Nigeria's population lacks reliable energy access, leading to significant challenges. The minister also outlined Nigeria's goals for transitioning to cleaner energy sources, including a target of achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2060 and deriving 30% of the country's energy generation from renewable sources by 2030. The two MOUs are expected to support the development of local capacity within the renewable sector, energy sector, reducing dependence on imports and generating employment for Nigeria's growing youth population. It's a good news, right? Signing an MOU with China, one of the superpowers, and a developed country, all in the name of switching to the renewable energy. I think the Minister of Power, Adelabu, has seen that Nigerians are really, really going through a lot based on access to energy. Not just energy, sustain like real energy, energy that can last long. Before you know it, you'll see that when somebody is producing something, they take the light and it brings to poor production and all that. So the presence of renewable energy will make life easier. It will make work smoother for Nigerians. And
Indeed, yeah.
that's it.
And I think that's the issue here that we have, already a lack of energy access.
Yeah.
So it's like if we're going to improve energy access for everybody, we might as well do it with clean energy instead of, continuing the cycle of non-renewables and climate and environmental issues. Let's do it the right way. And it's almost ironic, would I say, or interesting that the previous story we took was on China and how well they are doing
Yeah.
renewable energy. So signing an MOU and trying to build our own capacity here on perhaps how we have the infrastructure and other things within us here is interesting because we're really looking forward to what we could learn, what we could glean.
Yeah.
And the thing about renewable energy is that or adopting renewable energy and making an environment more energetically clean, if that language is correct or exists, is that it's everybody's business. So when people look at the MOU and say, what's China getting here? Well, China is getting lower greenhouse gas emissions from us, because the earth is for all of us. So when we emit ours, there's the same ozone layer we're all sharing. So there's that mutual benefit. It's all for the earth, for the globe at the end of the day. And I'm really interested in seeing what Nigeria can get from that relationship, and also China too at the end of the day. So that's how we end this segment of the program. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be joined by a guest talking about Triumph, Eko Sayato. He is a clean energy advocate. He'll be joining us to do justice to the matter. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change. Welcome back. This is still Hude Hour on Hude Network. And we're still talking on the issue of renewable energy. We've been joined now by a guest, an expert on the matter. He's a clean energy advocate and also a comms specialist in the renewable energy sector. I'm speaking about Eko Sayato Triumph, or Eko's Triumph for short. Welcome to the program. It's good to have you.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having
For
me.
coming. All right, so let's start from the basics, really. We know that industrialization has helped a lot of nations, become the most developed in the world. But then, how do you think countries can begin to balance the push for industrialization and economic growth with the need to meet climate targets? Because the more industrialized you get, the more emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. But on the flip side, if you should say you want to completely switch to clean energy, it might there's an opportunity cost there.
Yeah.
So how do you balance those two goals?
Okay. So yes. So this is mostly targeted to what I'll refer to as the global south. That's the underdeveloped and the developing countries in the world. As part of the Paris Agreement in 2015, there's an opportunity for financial there's an opportunity to help these countries to balance out and help them increase their clean energy markets. So in the global south, these mostly are countries that what are referred to as oil rich and people that have not really reached the industrialized stage where they have a lot of industrial companies. So it creates an opportunity for them to right that mistake right now. So there's a lot of companies and a lot of financial institutions, a lot of partnership with these countries in the global north. These are countries that are much more industrialized than us. Their partnership with the global north to help provide funding for projects to increase the solar to increase solar power, to increase, the wind market, to increase the, the hydro and just, clean energy initiatives in Nigeria. There's also the opportunity for the carbon markets. So there's the African Carbon Market Initiative, which really involves, buying carbon credits. So there's a lot of, technicalities to that, but basically you take your money and buy carbon credits, and those carbon credits is basically you investing in clean energy initiatives. It can be clean energy, it can be in agriculture. This is where the carbon credits can, be generated from. So, just spending that money is also a way to help, contribute and finance clean energy projects and initiatives in the global north,
So
in the
basically,
global south, sorry.
so the global south are still kind of dependent on aid from.
So you would not say dependent on aid. We are building it's building the country's building the country's clean energy sector, building the country's energy sector, helping to transition the country's energy sector. So let's say Nigeria, for instance. So Nigeria has decided that by 2060 we'll hit net zero emissions, and conditional of hitting it about 47% by 2030. That's with financial help. In the transition towards clean energy, we've decided that we would use, our gas reserves, which of course still quite carbon intensive, but not as much as, using the oil reserves. And you can, see how the initiatives is really playing out, with the presidency doing a lot of work with transitioning a lot of the cars to CNG. They are opening ports in Abuja and really just all around the country, in Lagos. And I think just recently they opened more, about 6 more. So really it's a walk towards clean energy. So I would not say it is basic. We are really relying on the financial aid. We also have to do our part. Each of the countries have to do their own part. Yeah. So
Okay, we have developing countries that, for instance, you mentioned Nigeria and other countries outside Nigeria that's still developing. And developing countries are not industrialized countries. They are still coming up based on infrastructure
yeah.
and all that. How can these countries have access to the transitioning to the renewable energy, despite they don't really have enough resources? They are not buoyant enough to sponsor or to carry out this whole transition.
The transition itself,
Yeah.
so that's to clean energy and renewable energy.
Exactly.
So like I said before, providing financial investments in the sector in the global south is also part of the Paris Agreement. There are partnerships, private public sector partnerships that are really on the way. I can say C4 is doing a lot of work with solarizing and really just solarizing healthcare in Sierra Leone and in Nigeria. Power Africa, which is a USA project, which actually just closed. There's also GAP, which is Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, which has really helped to provide funding for a lot of these projects in Nigeria. RMI is also doing a lot of work towards that in African countries, and really it's really it's an investment, and the global north and really the Paris Agreement has given the opportunity for that to happen, for people to really just bring their money and help support the growth of the renewable energy markets.
But do you think it's fair that part of some of these agreements require that you should, for lack of a better word, ignore your own natural resources? How do they address that?
So I mean, we would just come to understand that we are not saying do not use oil. We are saying reduce it. We have a target of reaching pre-industrialized levels. GHG emission. The earth is warming up. Yes, we've made a mistake. And if you say, okay, the mistake is oil, prior to that, we're killing whales to use whale oil. So we would have wrecked trees and, destroyed the aquatic ecosystem if we had not. But it's still, we've realized that yes, this is a problem and this is something we need to improve on, and we've gotten to renewable energy. So we are not saying don't read, and renewable energy is free. So we are not saying don't use your natural resources. Renewable energy is also free natural resources. You just have to find ones that works best. So like I said, the countries at the top of the equator have more solar, so have more sun. So that's just, that's free energy. Come on. And in places like Nigeria, you can also see like a jump in solar adoption around, and
better.
yeah, and you see, the country is also working towards adopting renewable energy solutions. In the last MITO, I think about 5% of energy allocation should come from renewable energy. So that was the last MITO. So you see, it's our generation. So you see, it's a work in progress. We have to do it. So we are not saying ignore because our transition for all is natural gas. Of course, it has to be a slow process. There needs to be a just transition towards, because then we cannot really just, we cannot throw people into it will be very unfair to the oil workers and everything. So it's a very slow process. And yes, it's a bit money intensive, at the beginning part, but like we've seen, there is an increase in energy, renewable energy investments. So as of 2023, there was about $1.8 trillion. That's over 50% from the year prior. So you can see, and as much as those investments keep pouring in, it becomes more cheaper. As much as there's a lot of innovation in the clean energy space, it just becomes a lot more easier to transition, especially for us that are in Nigeria and West African people really in the global south.
Indeed. What you said there, I've heard it a lot, and it's just like I don't know if you clean energy advocates sit in a room and tell each other to say that, but I think I'm beginning to see it, which is that it might be a little bit costly at the start, but it pays
Yeah.
for itself in the long run. I hear that a lot, and I will hope to see that. But in the meantime, while it is a slow work to energy, renewable energy, let's talk about what are some of the new trends you are seeing, and how do you think it's going to impact the current state of things? I remember a quote that says, if you want to change a system, you do not destroy it, you make it obsolete.
Yeah.
That is, the new one just makes the old one not needed anymore. But that being said, let's take a look at some of the things happening in recent times. Saudi Aramco, one of the most valuable. I don't want to, say I'm not quite sure, but they're in the top of the top in terms of most valuable countries. The only one of the few countries that has above $1 trillion valuation. That's an oil company. Bringing it to Africa, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has invested and just begun a refinery that refines non-renewable, the oil, the fossil fuel, investing billions of dollars in it. So one might wonder, it's a slow work, but these signs, does this show any sign that they are in any way close to being phased out? So are there any new things happening that might give us an inkling that, well, this old system might be phasing out soon,
Okay.
despite the evidence of
Yeah.
ground, so
So
to speak?
Because it doesn't look like
yeah.
it.
So it's looking like we're talking about clean energy, and now Dangote has sunk like billions of dollars and have created a full refinery in the middle of a city. So here's the thing. It's Again, it's a slow walk, of course, but then it also means that there are a lot of technologies that we can improve on and also take advantage on. Like mini grids gives the opportunity for there's sunlight anywhere, there's sunlight everywhere, as long as there's no obstruction. And as the higher you go, the freer it becomes. So you see places like Lagos some benefit from solar as much as places in the north, as much as places in the south and the east. So solar is really just a very general, much more widespread
Okay,
solution.
so all right. So, in your opinion, what are those barriers that can actually impede or just stop the adoption of renewable energy, either politically or socially? What are actually those barriers?
So
And
I
how
don't
can they
think
be addressed?
so. I think you cannot really stop a race that has started. We have started that race. So now things that can slow it down. So I prefer the term slow it down. We would say, for instance, there's like the ETP plan, which say for us, work together with professionals and with the Nigeria government to provide um, the ETP plan. But then there's a lot of other plans that so now there's conflict. There's both gaps and there's conflicting um, um, plans in the sector. So it looks like we have too much isolated bodies working on separate, working on
Projects.
yeah. So there needs to be unification. There needs to be an actual sit down to say, you know what, these policies overlapping this. There needs to be a realignment exactly because there's too much, projects and there's too much policies that are conflicting with each other. So I think that's one really major thing we need to work on, specifically in Nigeria. And yeah, and for sure, if we're able to solve that, there will be much more adoption. And the Nigerian government is already working towards doing that. We can see that as part of like I said, with the MITO, for instance, which the allocation has to be 5%. So it's a gradual work, but it's going to happen. I think in the last electricity act, the most recent electricity act, you also increased their generation capacity, and there's also talks on further increasing it. So it's a work in progress, and we've started that work. There's nothing that can really stop it, but then there are ways we can help make it faster. And one of the ways is really aligning all of these policies.
All right, fair enough. The main key point there is the unification, people coming together. Because truly, I think, I'm sorry to bring this back to a bit of entertainment, where we see in the movies that the good guys always tend to fight each other. And the bad guys, when they meet, they just collaborate and do their evil together.
To hurt the good guys.
Yeah, so it's interesting that people have good intentions, groups, bodies, but they are isolated
Yes.
and they need to come together. So that's a fair one. So perhaps to start to round it up now, let's talk about the sustainability of it. Sometimes in certain countries, we see that some projects are begin and we see that maybe the solar panels, they say it requires so much maintenance and for some reason it just goes to waste. I think we've seen a number of countries where the street lights are meant to be done. Perhaps sometimes we don't even know who is sponsoring these projects, but we know there's some body behind it. Perhaps one of these isolated bodies anyway. So you see that at some point it looks abandoned, and people say, well, we don't have what it takes to maintain and all of that. So are there any works in place to ease the maintenance of all of these and ensure sustainability? Like you said, it pays for itself in the long run,
Yeah.
But then if perhaps some things are not put in place, it might end up being a loss at the end of the day. So, what are those ways to ensure sustainability in all the kinds of energy, not just solar, perhaps wind and other ones?
Okay, so I think the problem really just boils down to your first initial questions with financial aid and the fact that it's not really an aid, it's an investment to these financial investments. So it looks like it's not our money that's really that's really solving a bit of these problems. But I think that's not even a problem for the fact that it happened in the first place. I think that's a problem with taking ownership. Exactly. So, I mean, you spoke about traffic lights. So, if the traffic lights were not solar, we have, non-solar traffic lights are also not well maintained. So, it's like a maintenance thing with the government or whoever ministries has really taken care of that um, particular for in this case solar. So, I really just think there needs to be ownership in the sense that there need to be maintenance and like you mentioned earlier, the RA signed an MOU with the Chinese firm, which is bringing a lot of green skills education, and, so which is educating a lot of these people that were formerly in the in the fossil fuel and the oil sector, and just really improving their skills, and there's a lot of translation going on, teaching them new renewable skills, and so they are now our lifeblood in this new change that we are coming, in this new change we are coming towards. So yes, again, it's a very slow process. Yes, there's a lot of a lot of policies, a lot of change up that needs to happen, and in the long run, that we are going towards a place where it's going to get it right, and it's going to.
Right. So, last question, final question. Your
Yeah.
prediction at the rate we are going, do you
Yeah.
see us meeting all these targets? 2030, more renewable energy.
Okay, so let me
contributions.
really just.
I'm talking on a
outline
global
the-
scale now.
Oh, on the global scale.
And the south, it's not just the global south that
Yeah.
has these targets.
Yeah.
Even the
And
developed countries,
yeah.
they still have those targets.
Yeah.
So, from everything on ground, do you see these targets being met?
So here's the thing. Of course, you've seen the big oil activists and all of the, work that they are doing.
The big oil?
The stop oil activists.
Okay.
Sorry, and all of the work they are doing. It's a change that needs to happen because we only have one Earth, and it's the Earth for us and our kids. So we need to do something. So that is why a lot of people need to know that yes, we need to hit the ground running. We need to know that improve on your skills. You need to know about this, and it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be It's going to be a slow run. It's going to be gradual. We can see the data. We can see what is wrong. We can see, and the fact that we've been able to do this continuously, and the COP happens every year, we're able to go back and realign, learn from our mistakes from the past year, and rework it. So COP, the conference party, just gives us an opportunity to come back and say, oh, this was not working, this is what is working. And we will keep refining until we get there. Because again, this is not about, are we going, this is not about, oh, will this happen, will we reach our NDC targets? Do you think, we'll eventually be, it's not we have to. It is one Earth.
Yeah.
We have to. Yeah. So as much as it's a slow walk, we have to.
Indeed. That's a great way to put a stop to this segment of the program. And I think it's something to take away from our viewers out there too, which is that we will save the earth because we have to.
We have to.
We have to.
So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And
Triumph
for enlightening us on renewable energy and the progress so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will take a break now, and that's the end of the segment on our discussion with an expert on this matter. And when we come back, we'll delve into what the verified voices are saying as regards renewable energy. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still Hude Hour on Hude Network. Now we're into our segment of the day, our segment at the close of the day, actually. Verified voices. We'll take a look at what the verified voices, we know, are saying on the matter. And today's topic is renewable energy. So let's take a look now at what some of those key voices, those key stakeholders in the renewable energy sector are saying at the moment. I'd like to take a first look at this one here from UN Development. Says making the best use of green energy and responsibly exploiting resources will also help establish an ecological conscience for future generations. In the Sahel, we are supporting the transition to renewable energy. That's what the UNDP is doing. As an interesting one there, ecological conscience. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess it speaks to future generations, as you can see there, so that a lot of the things that we're taking a lot to learn right now is something that just translates naturally to the younger generation who don't always have to consider if there's a monetary or economic benefit to things. Like we said in just the segment before now, we will save the earth, or we will do what we need to because we have to, and that's a conscience. I believe the UNDP is talking about that.
Yeah, that word conscience, I don't know, it just hits me differently. I
Yeah.
felt so emotional about it. Well, kudos to United Nations for that wonderful one. And I'm sure Sahel and other countries will be very, very happy to benefit from the help that UNDP will be giving to them. All right, we have the next up on your screen right now. This is from Irina's Renewable Energy Statistics 2024 is out. Hashtag renewables are growing rapidly, but achieving the COP28 hashtag 3 times renewables target remains a challenge. A 16.4% annual growth rate in renewable capacity till 2030 is essential to stay on track. Okay, well, I don't really know, but we are still, it's still the same thing that we're saying. We're still looking forward to switching to the renewable energy.
Indeed. So let's take our final verified voice for today to round up the program. Taking a look at a tweet there about to be on your screens from the UND's, the Sustainable Development. We have, for the first time in a decade, the number of people lacking electricity access grew. That's not good news. Without changing course, 660 million will lack electricity access, and 1.8 billion will go without clean cooking fuels and technologies by 2030. That's we have the SDG 7 in numbers there. You can see the outline of more figures. Some not so good outlook for the future. But anyway, like we always say, the caveats, the condition for all of these things is that we act now and we do what we need to do. So I think that's where we will end it today. On the note that again we have to do our best. We have to ensure that we're up and doing, and we key into the renewable energy agenda. It's good for all of us. All right, that's how we end the program for today. Thank you so much for joining us. The topic has been renewable energy. We do hope that you've learned one or two things and you've left it perhaps a champion or an advocate for renewable energy, because we have one Earth, is all we have, and we should do our best to save it. Thank you so much once again. I am Amadine Obewe. Bye for now.
And I am John Eze. Thank you for joining us.